Looking for a job? You may have to interview with artificial intelligence first. I'm Tonya Hall for ZDNet, and joining me is Kevin Parker. He is the chairman of the board and CEO of HireVue. Welcome, Kevin.
Delighted to be here.
What is HireVue?
HireVue is best understood as a video interviewing platform where we enable companies to generate interviews to candidates around the world and enable them to take those interviews on demand. So you can take an interview for a job anywhere in the world, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year in a very compelling way.
How do the HireVue assessments work, and what's the interview process look like?
So the interview process is pretty straightforward. You'll generally get an email invitation, and what you'll see when you log in is some pre-recorded questions. Tell me a little bit about yourself, tell me your experience, sort of some standard interview questions. The interviews are probably 20 to 30 minutes long, and they're fairly typical interview questions. What we're doing in the process is using artificial intelligence to do what we would normally do in person. As human beings, we communicate not only with our voice and with the words we use and the intonation, but our facial features convey a lot too. And what the artificial intelligence does is transcribe the audio and look at the video at the same time. And as I like to say, the software knows the difference between I love my boss and I love my boss. Those are two very different sentiments that I communicated. The words were exactly the same, and what the assessment does is start to build a profile of you. So we can understand things like tenacity, grit, empathy, creative thought, and a variety of things, and start to match them up with skills that jobs are looking for.
Kevin, there are thousands of subtle human factors and issues when it comes to finding the right fit. So how does machine learning and artificial intelligence finesse those intangible attributes?
Well, we're not judging you as an individual and sort of your worth as an individual, but what we've done is build models that really correlate to the most successful people inside the organization. So we could be interviewing 1,000 bank tellers a week for one of our customers. And we know what the characteristics of the most successful bank tellers really start to look like. They're probably empathetic. They probably have creative thought. They probably have some good technical skills. And so what we'll do is correlate that to performance inside the organization, completely neutralize the models for bias, and then start interviewing and start matching candidates to the characteristics that the company's looking for.
What type of data are you collecting when you're looking for candidates to fit the right position?
So we're looking at a variety of things, but it's really those things that are evident in that 20 or 30-minute interview. It may be that the most successful people tend to use the word we a lot. It's a team-oriented environment. So we're looking for those traits. We're looking for creative thought or empathy and a variety of things like that. So it really varies from company to company, from job to job, but it's really trying to describe people that are the best fit for that particular job and the characteristics of that, and completely focusing on work-related characteristics too. And I think that's really important. So things like gender and age and ethnicity are irrelevant to us as we're evaluating candidates. We're really focused around the skills and the attributes that are the precursors of success.
So are those the cognitive biases that exist right now in hiring? I mean, what are you trying to actually eliminate exactly?
Well, there are just enormous cognitive biases in hiring. And think about, any one of us on any given day. I may think I'm a great interviewer on Wednesdays, but if it's Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, it doesn't matter how good the candidate is. I've got so much going on in my life and that I'm probably not a fair interviewer. What companies are finding is that by having a very structured process where every candidate gets asked exactly the same question in exactly the same way, and then gets evaluated in a very fair and consistent manner, you're actually eliminating those cognitive biases. It could be that I just happen to like people that wear blue on a particular day. I'm not even actually aware of it sometimes. And so these are subtle biases that we bring, some conscious, some unconscious, but the algorithms sort of neutralize all of that. And the result is a significant improvement in diversity. Candidates that wouldn't have been considered before are actually moving to the top of the list because those biases are not part of the decision-making process.
How are you using machine learning then and the artificial intelligence? Who's on your team making the decisions to what kind of data to put together and refine the candidate's evolution?
So as you think about that 20-minute or 30-minute interview, what we're really taking the place of is a typical pre-hire assessment. And there are a lot of people that before you get a job, you actually have to take a test and you fill out a 200-question questionnaire. Well, in the course of a 20 or 30-minute video, we can actually collect tens of thousands of data points across an interview and completely eliminate the need for that questionnaire. And so we're looking at as things as subtle as word usage, as frequency of word usage, of intonation, a variety of things like that. So we have a team of data scientists that's helping us map all of that data. We have a very well-established team of IO psychologists that are helping us describe the questions. A typical interview question might be, tell me a challenging time you had in your life and how you overcame it. And the way you answer that question and the things you describe really convey a lot about your personality. So it's that team of data scientists and artificial intelligence experts combined with with IO psychology that really help build the questionnaires. And as I said earlier, we map that to performance on customer side. So it's a pretty well-established process.
I would imagine you've got a variety of clients and every employee is a different fit for different companies. So how do you measure the machine learning based off the different skill sets required by different companies?
But it's a great question. Maybe back up just a minute. One of the things that we're very focused on, I think you're alluding to, is that candidate experience. It's great that we have all these skills, but if it's a horrible experience for candidates, no one's going to take the interview. Well, we track Net Promoter Score for all of our candidates, and we know that across a very large swath of the world and a very large swath of job categories, our Net Promoter Score is generally in the high 60s. So we know candidates are having a really good experience. And if I gave you access to any one of those 7 million interviews we now have on our database and asked you to watch a few with the sound off, what you'd see most often is people smiling. They're talking about themselves. They're having a good experience. They're getting to an interview for a job they probably otherwise wouldn't get. On the customer side, what we're really concerned with are attributes, I think, that really focus on performance, whether it's retention and their ability to keep people in jobs for very long periods of time, success within that job. It could be customer satisfaction ratings. So we're very metric driven about finding the right talent. So you've got, attributes on both sides. The candidates are having a good experience and we're getting better fit for our customers for jobs.
What are you measuring exactly? Words, facial expressions?
Well, all of those things. And so it's the sum total of how we communicate as individuals. And think about a conversation that, you'd have with an individual, even you and I sitting across the video from each other. We're communicating on multiple levels, just not only the words, but our facial features, our gestures, and things like that. So we convey a lot of information, and it's culturally universal. So we know that this science of communication and what we might describe as facial action units is really well established. What our secret capability is and what our interesting capability is that we can actually transcribe that by looking at video instead of having to sit across the table from each other.
Kevin, we've all seen examples of standardized tests, questions that could be answered appropriately in ways the question designer didn't anticipate. So how do machines really know that any seemingly outlier question from a highly creative person or candidate is the wrong answer?
Well, that's a really interesting question because we're not really concerned with a right answer or a wrong answer. This isn't a true or false capability that we're really looking at. What we're trying to do is getting us a very in-depth assessment of what you are like as an individual, the cumulative impact of all of the answers. And so we may find that you're a creative thinker across a series of questions. We may find you're a strong team player across a series of answers that you've given. So we're not judging people on a yes-no basis, but we're really sort of saying, this group of candidates, we would highly recommend them for your position because they have the attributes and the capabilities that most closely match your most successful employees. Another group of candidates may not meet that criteria. So we're not making decisions for our customers, but really help them sort through very large volumes of candidates to find the people that are most effective for them.
How are you protecting the data that you're collecting?
Well, we take data privacy very, very seriously, and we have a great deal of confidentiality built into our system. The data belongs to our customers very, very explicitly, so no one is sharing data. We don't allow any secondary usage of our data, and we go through IT security audits almost on a weekly basis inside the company. So it's a responsibility that we take very seriously. We also work very hard to make sure we're not collecting very significant data. So we only have an email address and an image. And so we're not looking at, any sort of credit data or resume data or addresses. None of that is in our system, and we work very hard to keep it out of our system for exactly those reasons.
And what's the future of artificial intelligence assisted hiring?
Well, I think you have to go back to what is the primary objective that our customers have by deploying a technology like this. And they've realized that there are a few things that I think are really advantage. One, there's probably the most overused metaphor I hear these days is that there's a war for talent. There isn't a war for talent. It's a race. And if you're slow, you're going to lose. The best candidates are off the market with jobs very quickly, particularly in today's tight employment environment. So companies are really making a very strong effort to reach out as broadly and as widely as they can. And that's where technology really helps them. The artificial intelligence enables them to interview very broadly and then select very quickly out of that who they think the top candidates are. The future, I think, is really quite exciting because I'm convinced that 10 years from now, you're going to walk into somebody's office and see a resume on the corner of a desk and think, oh my gosh, you still do it that way. Good for hanging on to that, because it's a very flawed way to find talent. What I think we're really starting to focus on is how can we do a better job of matching people with their best job. And so, perhaps in the future you'd take a generic interview and we could start to say, these types of jobs are really good for you. These types of companies might be the best places for you to work at the end of the day. And so can we take some of this matching and some of the desire from companies to find the best talent and find the opportunity for candidates to match them up in very new and very exciting ways. So I think we're just at the beginning of a very significant change in the way people get hired. And I think it'll be better for everybody involved.
Well, I really appreciate your time, Kevin, and hopefully I wasn't being analyzed in this interview. But
No,
if somebody wants to connect with you, maybe they want to find out more about the work that you're doing and maybe even use HireVue, how can they do that?
Sure. The easiest way to reach me is via email. It's kparker with no punctuation at HireVue, HIREVUE.com. And HireVue.com is our website, and there's a ton of information there as well.
And you can find more of my interviews right here on ZDNet or Tech Republic, or connect with me by going to my website, tonyahall.net. I've got links to all my social channels, including Twitter. In fact, if you'd like to chat, follow me on Twitter at @TonyaHallRadio. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.